Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today we are reading A Dream. It's a drarry fanfiction. Once again, sorry for not posting for a while there for a minute. I promise that I'm trying my best. But I'm working on it. Today we are reading chapter 9 of A Dream. So let's jump right into the video. Chapter 9. Harry without warning. Eyes flung so wide, each iris was perfect circle of green. The boy was drenched to the bone in sweat. His breaths were heavy and quick, as the beads of liquid ran down his cheeks and forehead. His cheeks were red and hot to the touch. Harry frantically searched his surroundings. He seemed to calm slightly when he realized he was at Hogwarts and in his bed. He took a shaky deep breath and closed his eyes. Harry looked down at his school clothes and grimaced at the soaked t-shirt and joggers. He threw his covers off his body as he stood from his bed. He realized the sun was only just rising. Harry sighed quietly. I really wanted to sleep properly tonight. Harry made his way into the bathroom and peeled off the clothes which clung to his body. He gagged slightly and threw them in the wash basket and watched it magically disappear. He stepped into the shower and turned it on. Its temperature immediately relaxed Harry's muscles and cooled him down. He sighed in content. After washing his hair and body to get rid of the sweat, he wrapped a towel around his body and walked back into the room to grab his clothes. Luckily, all the boys were still asleep. He thought until he heard slight giggling from Dean's bed, and Ron's bed seemed kind of flat, which was very unusual for him. He quickly changed into his uniform. Harry decided it'd be boring to just wait until the rest woke up, so he went into the field. As soon as he walked out, he took a deep breath of fresh air, something he definitely needed. Harry's eyes took in the gray scenery before walking to a tree and sitting below it. It hadn't rained in a while, so the ground was dry, and the only thing covering it was a few brown leaves. He leant against the trunk and sighed once more. For the first time in a long time, Harry could relax. Completely relaxed, without the thought of Voldemort, or the Dursleys, or Death Eaters, he could finally take a minute to admire the world around him and appreciate it. As the sun rose over the distant trees and the light hit Harry's face and gave him a sort of glow, the rays bounced off the black lake and it shimmered in the new sunlight. Enjoying the peace, I assume? The voice pulled Harry from his thoughts and back to reality. He turned his head and saw Draco. Harry blushed in only his presence. I guess. It's nice to not have to worry about saving the world, you know? Harry said without thinking. For some reason he felt comfortable with Draco for the very first time. Draco stalked closer to the tree, which Harry leant on, and Harry couldn't help but admire the boy. He was so tall. His hair was perfectly styled, of course, and the rare times he smiled, he looked handsome. However, Harry would never admit that out loud. I wouldn't, but I guess that would feel nice. The blonde smiled at Harry, which earned a light laugh from the black-haired boy. You left something the other night, Draco began, and he blushed slightly. Your drawing book? Harry became red instantly. He knew exactly what Draco had seen. Shit, was his first thought that came to mind. I couldn't help myself. Your drawings are amazing. I'm flattered that you drew me. The blonde smirked at the reaction he got from Harry. Well, Harry was so embarrassed he couldn't talk. Draco took pity on him and pulled the book from his pocket and handed it to him. Thanks, Harry mumbled, still crimson. You should be proud of them, Draco said, and sat next to him. The two sat in silence for a few seconds before Draco let his head fall forward. I wanted to apologize, he started unsurely. I know the way I treated you and your friends was out of order. It was uncalled for, and I've realized that's not who I am. I was following my father's demands, and I got carried away sometimes. I just wanted him to be proud of me. Draco frowned as he remembered his father. He sniffed quietly and looked away from Harry. Vulnerability might have been his worst nightmare. I forgive you, though I can't say the same for my friends. Harry smiled to the older boy. Why are you up anyway? Harry asked cautiously. He knew the boy was fragile, and he wasn't looking to intrude. Couldn't sleep, the blonde said simply, and Blaze wasn't in his bed, so I came to find him. Draco shoved lightly. You. Jerry debated on telling him. Only the Weasleys really knew about his nightmares. He found them embarrassing, and he thought he was weak because of that. You don't have to tell me, Draco said quietly. Harry shook his head and replied, I get these nightmares about the war and him. Sometimes I hurt myself while I have them. I hate it. I'm sorry, you probably don't care, Potter, he said firmly. Sometimes I get them too. I know what that's like. I find this so weird. Harry giggled. I mean, we always fought back in the day, and now here we are comforting each other. It's not that I don't like it, because I do. It's nice to talk to someone who really understands about the war, and everything we went through was quite similar. And Merlin, I'm rambling, aren't I? I'm sorry, once I start talking I can't stop. Harry rambled, which was cut off by a chuckle from Draco. Harry blushed pink, biting his lip. I know what you mean. Draco smiled, still laughing slightly. This is very strange, to be civil with a lifetime enemy. After that, they talked about their years together at Hogwarts and their Quidditch matches. The two boys felt they were old friends catching up with each other's lives. While they talked, Harry admired how carefree Draco looked. He looked truly happy. When he talked about his mother and father, Harry smiled at Draco's grin. They talked until the sun was completely over the forest, both realizing it was breakfast. I still can't believe we lost to Hufflepuff in third year. Harry laughed, and Draco snorted quietly while smiling. Yeah, that game was eventful in the worst part. Draco smiled awkwardly. Also, do you remember that time when you, Theodore, and Crabbe were messing with Ron and Hermione? Harry smiled at the thought. Both of them stood up and began walking towards the castle. Yeah, and then something really weird happened. That was you. Draco's eyes widened, and he scowled playfully. Harry began laughing hysterically. Merlin, we thought we were getting possessed or something. Draco laughed, too, before jokingly shoving Harry, which Harry laughed even harder at. The looks on your faces, he giggled. It was not funny. He tried to say seriously, but he was laughing also. From my point of view, it was hilarious. Harry grinned, trying his absolute hardest not to laugh again. They walked into the castle and finally both calmed down. Hey, Potter. Call me Harry. Harry smiled. We're friends now, right? Yeah. Draco scratched his neck awkwardly. So, I was wondering, me and the other Slytherins are going to have a party in the common room tomorrow night, and I was going to ask if you wanted to come. Harry smiled and nodded. Sure. What about my friends? Yeah, they can come too. Okay, I'll I'll see you in class. Yeah, bye, Harry. Bye, Draco. As soon as Harry turned away from the blonde, a bright grin spread across his face. A pink blush appeared on his cheeks. He shook his head quickly before practically running to breakfast. He walked through the halls as they became crowded at a fast pace, but finally he made it to his destination. Harry, where have you been? Ron asked, stuffing his face. Harry sat down, still smiling, as he looked across to the Slytherin table. His eyes met Draco's, and Harry began to wonder how he'd gotten here before himself. But he no longer cared as soon as Draco smiled at him. Harry smiled back and turned to his friends, ignoring the previous question. How would you guys like to go to a party tomorrow night? Chapter 10. Bloody hell, Harry. Why does it take so long to choose an outfit? Ron said quickly, growing frustrated. It was now Saturday night, and Harry was unsatisfied with all his clothes. He couldn't find anything that was appropriate to wear. Because these ones aren't smart enough, and those don't even fit me. Not my fault I couldn't go out and buy new clothes and shit because I had a godson to look after. Harry finally snapped at him. He was fed up with Ron's nagging. He took after Miss Weasley in a lot of ways, but this was the most prominent. Sorry, mate, but I just really need a drink, he sighed. In the past week, Ron's mind had been elsewhere. He was strangely quiet most of the time, and it was quite disturbing when Harry saw him at dinner not eating. Harry also had noticed that Ginger and Hermione's relationship was slowly dissipating. They fought more, talked less, and were hardly seen together. It worried Harry. The black-haired boy sighed. Go on, Harry said. I'll catch up. Ron didn't need to be told twice. He was quickly out the door and into the party. Harry exhaled heavily before finally had an idea. In fourth year, when they went to the Yule Ball, Harry had an extra, which was far too big for him at the time, but it could fit him now. He searched through the ready of clothes and found it. Thank Merlin that I never unpack. He smiled and slipped it on. He paired it with some skinny black jeans and hugged his legs perfectly. Once he was dressed, he brushed through his messy hair and brushed his teeth before going down to the common room. The already deafening music grew louder with every step. When he was at the bottom, he could hardly hear his own thoughts. The music boomed through floating speakers as people danced drunkenly and laughed loudly. Drinks and cups were scattered on tables, sofas, the floor, shelves, etc. Bright lights of all colors danced and blinded people around the room. Harry! The boy heard his name being shouted over the music. He swiftly turned his head towards the noise and saw Hermione standing with a few other girls. He smiled when she waved over at him. Hey, Harry, a blonde girl giggled. She swirled a piece of her hair between her perfectly manicured fingers. She wore a very revealing dress and heels, too high to possibly walk straight. Her face was caked in makeup and red lipstick that was smudged over the cup in her hand and lips. She was leaning to one side and looked quite out of it. Hey, he replied awkwardly, and looked to Hermione, silently pleading for help. Lay off, Lucy. Hermione smiled. He's gay anyway. Lucy's facial expressions quickly changed from flirty to disgusted. She looked Harry up and down before giving him a dirty look, before stalking away and stumbling. What the fuck, Hermione? Harry explained angrily, his eyebrows furrowed and down upon his face. You know I'm right, she sighed before she took a sip from her drink. Harry suddenly realized she was a little tipsy, and that was probably the reason she told them. He took a deep breath before muttering a bye and walking away. Hopefully those girls wouldn't remember anything by tomorrow. The dark-haired boy slipped past many groups of people to the drinks table. He grabbed the first bottle of fire whiskey and dumped a lot into his cup. Harry then downed it in 2 gulps. Impressive, Potter. Harry turned and saw a smile of a certain blonde. Luckily, it was one he liked. He was dressed in black slacks with a gray turtleneck and a few chains. "Hey, Malfoy." Harry grinned. "Great party." "It's not mine. Pansy planned it and threw it," he said. Draco didn't look tipsy or drunk, but something was off. Harry turned and reached for the bottle of alcohol once more. However, Draco had other plans. "Although maybe you shouldn't get too drunk." He smiled and took Harry's cup, setting it on the table. The tall boy leaned in closer and whispered, "There's students that would just love to have their own way with you." Harry blushed profusely. Draco was definitely drunk, but somehow he hid it well. Harry could smell the intoxicating alcohol on his breath, which normally disgusting, but this, to Harry, was oddly arousing. "Well, I have to get back on the dance floor." He broke away from the smaller boy. "Far too many people I promised to dance with. Bye, Potter." Harry's face dropped slightly. He was hoping to talk to him a bit longer, but maybe he just didn't want to be seen with Harry. After all, he wasn't exactly important anymore. That's what he thought. His purpose was to destroy Voldemort, and he'd done that, so what was next? Girls only wanted him for the money, or to get into the Daily Prophet. Boys only hung out with him for the same thing. Sure, the press still followed him once in a while, but now that everything was over, much more important things were happening. The rebuilding of the Ministry, Kingsley becoming minister, the catchings of Death Eaters, etc. He was now just Harry, which was something he wished he was, but now things were different. With everything not revolving around himself, he had more time to think and get lost in his own mind, which was something he did not want to do if you had been through the trauma he did. To Harry, this sounded so self-centered and he hated it, but he couldn't help it. He couldn't help feeling like this. Harry was quickly brought out of his thoughts when he heard a dreamy voice beside him. "Hello, Harry." Harry jumped, startled. He turned and saw Luna Lovegood. She was currently dressed in a sky-blue dress, littered with cartoon daisies and small white bow on the collar. On her feet, she wore gray fuzzy socks, which did confuse Harry at first, but then, again, he was talking to Luna. "Hey," he replied, sighing. "Sorry, I was zoned out." "It's fine. I do it all the time." She smiled innocently. "How are you? I haven't seen you since the war." Harry asked suddenly. "Me and Dad went to summer in Kent. We were hunting and picked up a Muggle sport. Fishing, I think." She spoke quietly. Harry found it slightly hard to hear her, but he did. "That's nice," he grinned, before getting himself another drink. "I'm going to find Ginny. Bye, Harry." She waved and skipped off to find the ginger girl. After chatting to a few other people, Harry walked around silently observing people getting even more drunk than before. Harry giggled as he watched two Slytherins break a table, and then a drunk Hufflepuff, which was a rare sight, trying to help, but instead falling on top of them. A few Gryffindor Muggleborns began doing body shots. Harry laughed at the disgusted faces of the purebloods. It was nearing 1 a.m. when the door to the common room slammed open, emitting a loud banging noise. This grabbed the attention of most people, and even the music turned down to a tolerable volume. There stood the Hogwarts slag, Astoria Greengrass, a pureblood Slytherin who has likely shagged most males and a couple females in the school. A rumor got out that she shagged a professor just to get an O on her owls, and she might have snugged Snape once. Everyone knew her, but no one liked her, except her minions. Harry had to admit. Astoria was beautiful in her appearance. Her brunette hair was perfectly curled, draping down to her waist. Her pale face was a heart shape and had cascaded cheekbones. Her figure was petite, with a perfect hourglass shape. Her attitude was big, but her boobs were even bigger. Harry assumed they were fake. She was dressed in a forest green, glittering top with skin-tight black leather trousers, which went well with her black stilettos. Her makeup was dusted lightly on her face, but paired with strong red lips. A couple guys wolf whistled as she strutted through the room. She smirked in response. She made her way onto the dance floor and pulled a random guy in to kiss her. With that, the music started up again and people cheered. Harry shook his head and took a long swig of his drink. Alright everyone, that is the end of today's episode. I really hope that you guys enjoyed. Come back next time for chapter 11. And I will see you in the next video. Good morning, good afternoon, or good night. Goodbye, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody in between. And I will see you in the next video. Like, subscribe, and comment down below whether it's just leaving recommendations or whether it's saying hello. Anyway, bye friends.